Hey y'all, thanks for stopping in. So today is September 11th. There's a lot of memorial ceremonies going on across the nation, particularly one at Ground Zero in New York. And our president's schedule is so busy that he is the first president to miss the memorial ceremony at Ground Zero and went ahead and sent the vice president Kamala Harris in his place. All the while, he's making his tour around the world. And in this story from the Daily Mail, incredible moment, White House staff abruptly end Biden's rambling Vietnam press conference mid-sentence and cut his mic. So it's becoming more regular that our president has gaffes at the podium when he speaks, but let's see what happened this time. A sleepy President Joe Biden saw his rambling Vietnam press conference brought to a sudden end on Sunday night with his mic cut and jazz music playing him off the stage, like he went too long at an awards speech. Biden was mid-flow and answering questions from journalists when he was abrupted and forced to shuffle away and head backstage. Quote, "We talk about stability. We talked about the third world. Excuse me, the southern hemisphere has access to change. It wasn't confrontational at all," Biden said as he rambled on. Suddenly, the booming voice of his press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, could be heard butting in. "Thank you, everybody. This ends the press conference. Thanks, everyone," she said as she brought the presser to a close. And let's just go ahead and check it out.
We talked about at the conference overall. We talked about stability. We talked about making sure that the third world, the southern hemisphere had access to changes, had access. It wasn't confrontational at all. He came up and
Thank you, everybody. This ends the press conference. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to stop it there before they start playing the music. But all the while, Biden continued to speak, not realizing his mic had been muted. In another bizarre twist, jazz music then began to play over the loudspeaker, with the 80-year-old still seemingly trying to answer questions as he continued to speak into the microphone. And, I'm wondering if because they know that content creators will get copyright infringement for playing music that they're not supposed to. So I wonder if that's what they cut in with the jazz music. I bet it's actually a copyrighted track or something like that. And if I would have played it, they would probably try to hurt the channel somehow or something, right? You know what I mean? Potentially. I don't know. It's just a theory. But it would be a good tactic. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Would prevent us from being able to play, what he said and what was going on if there's that music going on in the background. But as the president tried to answer a few more questions, the music grew louder, prompting Biden to put away his leather-backed folder and shuffle off stage, disappearing behind a black curtain. How disrespectful and how weak is that? The lack of trust they have in him just being able to sit out there and talk and improvise and answer questions. What is he going to do? Give up top secret information or say the wrong thing? I mean, who knows, right? Probably all of the above. Let's continue. Biden whispered. He walked about the stage, and he used that now famous phrase, lying dog-faced pony soldier, during the 26-minute engagement with the press, using a set list of reporters to call on. A set list of reporters, probably a set list of questions. Everything's staged. It's all fake for this guy, I mean, that was the one thing a lot of people appreciated about Trump, at least I did, was that you get what you see with him, right? And he's going to sit up there and even to his detriment, answer every question that he can. After spending 2 days in India for the G20 Leaders Summit, Biden jetted to Vietnam Sunday to upgrade the country's diplomatic ties and ended the day with a press conference. In what was supposed to be a show of stamina, Biden is circumnavigating the globe in 5 days. The 80-year-old commander-in-chief joked about not knowing if it's morning or night and ended the presser event by saying, "I'm going to go to bed." He regaled reporters with a story, but all the while he's doing that, his schedulers somehow forgot about the 9/11 ceremony. Somehow forgot that the 9/11 ceremonies were on September 11th and failed to work this into his ever so busy schedule of vacations. The only reason he's not on vacation right now is because the G20 Leaders Summit in Mike. But that leaves us with this other article over here, the Gateway Pundit. Kamala Harris smiles and giggles at the 9/11 memorial ceremony as Biden heads to Alaska. So, while she goes to Ground Zero and giggles and smiles, has a great time, and I'm not saying it should be all doom and gloom, but, have some respect. You're standing on hollow ground. Not to mention, she compared January 6th to 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. Complete disrespect for the latter two events, considering the first one was not nearly as devastating to our country and our families and our people as the 9/11 attacks or the attacks on Pearl Harbor. We're also once again thinking about the people over there in Hawaii after the big fires, in Maui. And so with them on our mind and the 9/11 ceremony going on, Kamala Harris is gonna, she's gonna hoop and holler and have a good time. Everybody remembers that she cackles about everything. See, she loves to laugh inappropriately, causing people to question where her heart is and where her motivations come from. But let's go ahead and check this article out. The regime sent Kamala Harris to Ground Zero to participate in the 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony in New York City while Joe Biden hid in Alaska. What I've heard from Tim Pool's video earlier today, the Alaska stop where he gave his remarks is also where they have to refuel the planes, refuel the jets. They're stopping there regardless because they had to fuel up, and not necessarily because they're going to give a speech, but, might as well give the speech while you're on the ground, right? After twerking at her backyard barbecue over the weekend, Harris headed over to New York City to the 9/11 memorial. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is Alaska, far, far away from Ground Zero. The administration is a disgrace. Biden enraged 9/11 families for being the first U.S. president in 22 years to not visit any of the 9/11 sites on the anniversary of the attacks. And go figure, it's basically disregard for Americans, American families, and favor for migrants, I think is what they're called now, and Ukraine. He won't go to East Palestine, Ohio. He goes to Ukraine, though, right? He goes to the G20. It just goes to show his priorities nowadays aren't aligned with Americans, and they're not aligned with America's best interest, in my opinion. And this is just another one. The lack of respect and the disregard for Americans and America's families on 9/11. I mean, that's a basic principle that we can all agree on, Republican or Democrat, that 9/11 affected us all. And, politics and all that goes away whenever things like this happen, America united. So this type of thing supersedes politics, which is why it's important for the president to go and represent. When he doesn't and does what he did here, it just goes to show where his mind and where his heart and his priorities lie, in my opinion. It's no surprise to me that he's not coming to Ground Zero or any of the 9/11 sites. Retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Donald Arias, who lost his brother Adam during the attacks, told, "I prefer he stay away anyway. We will be spared one of the stories of how he can relate like he did with the people of Lahaina. Now he can relate because of a kitchen fire. We can do without that." 22 years ago today, the United States came under attack. Nearly 3,000 Americans died on September 11th, 2001. The world changed that day, and it absolutely did. I remember where I was, and I felt the same way that I think 99.9% of Americans felt that day. And I think maybe Joe Biden is in that 0.01%, judging by the way he acted today. If you don't want to be accused of not caring, don't act like you don't care. Kamala Harris is a disgrace. Never forget that Kamala Harris equated the January 6th protests to 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. Let's go ahead and check that out.
Place on our calendars, but a place in our collective memory. December 7th, 1941, September 11th, 2001, and January 6th, 2021.
I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one.